Hello. Welcome to the first series of campfire scary stories that I'm going to be telling you. I decided that I was going to start doing some audio of scary stories and put them up for everybody to hear. I've always loved creepypastas and urban legends and all kinds of things like that. So you can look forward to that and look forward to hearing some of my favorites. I would love to hear from anyone who has suggestions on what they would like to hear me read next. So here we go. Sit back, relax, listen to me tell you these tales. Try not to get too scared. This new old house. We bought an old house, my boyfriend and I. He's in charge of the new construction, converting the kitchen into the master bedroom, for instance, while I'm on wallpaper removal duty. The previous owner papered every wall and ceiling. Removing it is brutal, but oddly satisfying. The best feeling is getting a long peel, similar to your skin when you're peeling from a sunburn. I don't know about you, but I kind of make a game of peeling, on the hunt for the longest piece before it rips. Under a corner section of paper in every room is a person's name and a date. Curiosity got the best of me one night when I Googled one of the names and discovered the person was actually a missing person, the missing person date matching the date under the wallpaper. The next day, I made a list of all the names and dates. Sure enough, each name was for a missing person with dates to match. We notified the police, who naturally sent out the crime scene team. I overheard one text say, "Yep, it's human." Human? What's human? "Ma'am, where's the material you removed from the walls already? This isn't wallpaper." The Man in the Snow. You're home alone, and you hear on the news about a murderer who's on the loose. You look at the sliding glass doors to your backyard and notice a man standing out in the snow. He fits the profile of the murderer exactly, and he's smiling at you. You gulp, picking up the phone to your right and dialing 911. You look back at the glass as you press the phone to your ear, and you notice he is much closer to you now. And then you drop the phone in shock. There's no footprints in the snow. It's his reflection. This story has been a longtime favorite of mine. I believe it came out in 2009. We danced. Footsteps aren't an uncommon thing to hear when you're sitting in a basement, so I think nothing of it when I hear quiet thuds coming from my upstairs hallway. I just assume it's my brother and continue doing whatever pointless thing I was doing at the time. They go on for another couple minutes, and I'm starting to get pissed off. They keep getting louder and louder, and I sigh, wondering what the hell my brother's doing this late at night. I sit there because it's impossible to focus with the racket. I mean, it sounds like someone's power walking all over my floor. I sit there and listen as the thumps get faster and wilder. They just keep moving, almost starting to form a rhythm. They move even faster and get even wilder, and they're thumping all over my main floor. I realize that whatever this is, it can't be human. No human can move like that. "What the fuck?" I finally yell. After that, all the noises stop. Everything is quiet for a moment. And then I hear calm, slow footsteps moving to my basement door. The door is pushed open, and the footsteps stop again. I listen to my breathing for the next 3 minutes, then sigh, thinking it's over. Turns out something else was listening too. Suddenly I hear it thudding down the stairs, and I knock my chair over in my haste to stand up. I start to run towards the nearest closet, just in time to see a grotesque, hairless, four-legged creature dancing towards me, tapping its swollen feet in an intoxicating rhythm. I dive into the closet and slam the door shut. There's a half-second pause, and then I hear that same rhythm on the door. It just keeps going and going with no pause, no rests, no relief. He's been at it for hours now, and I find myself tapping my fingers along with his song. But then, just as suddenly as it began, it ends. I wait for a few moments, then look out. He's gone. I flip on a light and fall into a chair. It's safe. I relax and think for a few moments. But then I notice my foot tapping. Maybe this song isn't so bad. I almost like it enough to dance to it. So I drop down on my hands and feet, and I start. Seaweed. My grandmother grew up in the slums of Prohibition-era Chicago. Her family lived in a small house near the harbor, and one of her earliest memories was of a particularly hot summer when, seeking respite from the heat, she and her sister discovered a seldom-used section of boardwalk near an abandoned warehouse. Every night for several weeks, the two girls would make their way down to the docks and sit together on the edge of the pier as the sun went down. My grandmother vividly, and for a time fondly, recalled the feel of the seaweed between her toes as she and her sister dangled their feet into the murky water. It wasn't until years later that she returned to the pier and found that the warehouse had been demolished. Curious, she made an inquiry with the Department of Planning and Development. Apparently, the warehouse had been owned for a time by the mob, who was using it as a base of operations for a local prostitution racket. It had only been uncovered when an associate began disposing of rival prostitutes by fitting them with concrete shoes and dumping them into the harbor. Investigating officers had recovered nearly 24 bodies from the waters of a secluded pier nearby. How had the bodies been discovered? A passing fisherman spotted some of the victims' hair floating near the surface of the water, just like seaweed. The third wish. An elderly man was sitting alone on a dark path. He wasn't sure of which direction to go, and he'd forgotten both where he was traveling to and who he was. He'd sat down for a moment to rest his weary legs, and suddenly looked up to see an elderly woman before him. She grinned toothlessly, and with a cackle spoke. "Now, your third wish, what will it be?" Third wish? The man was baffled. How can it be a third wish if I haven't had a first and a second wish? "You've had 2 wishes already," the hag said. "But your second wish was for me to return everything to the way it was before you had made your first wish. That's why you remember nothing. Because everything is the way it was before you made any wishes." She cackled at the poor man. "So it is that you have 1 wish left." "All right," he said hesitantly. "I don't believe this. There's no harm in trying. I wish to know who I am." "Funny," said the old woman, as she granted his wish and disappeared forever. "That was your first wish." He stood against my window. I don't know why I looked up, but when I did, I saw him there. He stood against my window. His forehead rested against the glass, and his eyes were still and light, and he smiled a lipstick-red, cartoonish grin. And he just stood there in the window. My wife was upstairs sleeping. My son was in his crib, and I couldn't move. I froze and watched him looking past me through the glass. Oh, please no. His smile never moved, but he put a hand up and slid it down the glass, watching me, with matted hair and yellow skin. I couldn't do anything. I just stayed there, frozen, feet still in the bushes I was pruning, looking into my home as he stood against my window. And that's the last one for tonight, pets. So remember, let me know what you might want to hear next. And you can look forward to the next recording. Sleep well.